Oh, wow. Oh!
So that is literally when I started umpiring. So it's quite a few years ago.
Ooh,
How
that's
long
a
was
long
this?
time ago. I'm Finn.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Average Not Average podcast. I am CK.
I'm Viktor Axelsen.
I'm David Evans.
Yeah, and welcome. So this one is an interesting episode. Thank you, David, for coming along with us for a chat. David is the youngest BWF level certified umpire on the World Tour. I think most recently I've actually seen you at the Paris 2025 World Championships, David, correct?
Yeah, indeed.
Before we go into more intros, have you actually umpired any of Victor's matches here?
I have. Although I don't think many. And I think one that I did, my last one that I did was a few years ago. And I think Victor retired after 2 points.
Oh, okay.
And you didn't quit yet. That's good. That's good. You continued to hang around. I was afraid you would be like, this I don't want to do anymore.
Well, because my question following on was Victor, were you best behaved on court, or actually, do you actually know if you have a reputation with the umpires or technical officials as being a player? That's quite hard.
I guess I have a reputation, but I also feel like it's different. Like I have I probably some umpires, likes me, and some umpires don't really like me and stuff like that. You can see it in the eyes when you walk past them on the horse. But no, I'm just kidding. To be honest, I think that they know that I'm just very competitive and very, emotional in my own way when I'm on court. So I guess that's it.
Okay. Well,
I think it's quite similar for a lot of players, I think. Because everybody on court is different to off court as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
And I guess, so David, like before we jump into more of the in-depth technical umpiring questions, do you umpires speak amongst each other and go, okay, this player might cause some issues, problems. How do you then solve that? Do you do that?
Everybody always talks. But then everybody needs to go into every game fresh. And not have preconceptions on what to do and things like this. And if people say, this player did this last time, like yesterday, we need to do this time. No, every match is a new match type of thing. So you've got to take it fresh and new and keep an eye out for everything.
Okay. I mean, also at the same time now that because you've been on the World Tour for quite a few years now, and you've been in some of the biggest tournaments on the planet. So for example, like the All England, World Championships. Do you get recognized on the street now, David? Like people go,
not on the
this
street.
umpire.
No, not on the street. In the badminton world, when you go to a tournament, even when I'm still playing, and people say, I recognize you, then but it's not from playing that they recognize me from.
You should just say, you should just totally play it like you're on tour. Yeah, it was a rough final last week. Just try to do that next time.
And then, Victor, on the top of your head, do you have any burning questions for an umpire? I mean, David actually has gone through the actual formal process of preparing, and now he's actually here. If you have any burning questions for an umpire, you should ask right now.
Well, I'd probably throw a few in during the podcast, but one question I have is if there's one thing you could, have at your disposal, which is you don't have right now, what would that be?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I think it's definitely, for me personally, the review system, which is, I know it's been discussed and maybe we'll talk about later, and having a VAR system or something like that would be extremely helpful, but it would be difficult in terms of how it's implemented, how it's done, things like that. So I think it's quite a long way off at the moment, but for me, that's because iOS and Hawkeye has been fantastic when that's come in. That's helped a lot. So I think the next step would be surely something like a VAR system.
But when you mention iOS, what does that mean actually?
Sorry, iOS, the Hawkeye.
Okay,
the review
fine.
system. Sorry,
perfect. Instant review system.
But for example, we talk a lot about the net kills, right? I've had some experiences with the net kill and stuff where you as a player clearly see, and I totally get that as an umpire, it's very, very hard to judge. I wouldn't want to be in your position. But why would it be so hard? Literally, there's cameras there. Why would it be so hard, to have it with the refs, have a small, have a small screen and then just go back to slow-mo and then just take the decision? It would literally take 1 minute and it wouldn't be that massive of a cost, in my opinion, without being an expert.
Yeah, not sure. I mean, I know it's difficult in terms of camera angles and stuff that needs to be taken into account, especially when there's so many cameras and setups that are required then. I mean, like with Hawkeye, when they were doing the testing and stuff, because they have 10 cameras at the top of the hall all around, don't they, I think, for the system. But then when they were testing it, they needed a lot more cameras on court to make sure the system was okay. So they'd need to obviously have that implementation for a new system. But there's recording back to one of a call that I made, which is probably one of the closest calls that I've ever made. At the All England, it was like Samir Verma against Anders Antonsen, and I called a fault at the net because, in my opinion, Verma then hit the net when he hit the shuttle. His backstroke then hit the net really, really like fine margins, and he had no idea that anything happened. Neither had Anders. And it took me a while to get him to stop playing because I'd called a fault. And then the commentators at the time had no idea what was happening. But then they looked at the replays, and it took multiple replays to actually show that a fault had happened. Even the net camera looking down, you couldn't see the fault because the margins were the width of the post. So you couldn't actually see it. So you had to have an off angle to actually see it happen. And then so obviously then it was a correct call afterwards, but that would have taken quite a bit of time to actually see and having the correct angle. So it's having the confidence to be able to 100% call a fault like that with the correct camera angles. So I'm not sure. Hopefully we do get something like it soon. But in terms of
umpires
BWF, I don't know what they're
umpires want those systems to help them. Yeah,
I'd say so.
And then also one question that I have actually on my notes as well here is, are umpire decisions final? And can they, for example, we now actually see service judges now go on and speak to umpires fairly regularly, fairly often now. What does that do actually for us fans watching?
Yes, it's a thing to just, clearly everybody is human. Everybody does make mistakes. And so the purpose of that is the service judge isn't there just to look at the serves. They're not just there watching the game after, oh, they served, I can just watch the game now. They are still looking at everything in the game as an umpire. So the purpose of that has been really pushed the last few years, where if there's an obvious mistake, then as a service judge, you can get up, go over to the umpire and say what you've seen or if something's been missed. But it's also down to the umpire as well, because good teamwork between the two officials on the court is you can essentially, if you have good communication, good eye contact, you can basically have a conversation all the way through a rally or through a match almost with each other with nobody else knowing. So it's always good then as an umpire, you're always like, if you think there might have been a fault, you look at your service judge to see, they're like, yeah, there's a fault. You can call it a fault, and it helps you and gives you that back in. But yeah, the purpose of the service judge going across is to give any obvious mistakes that have been made by the umpire, or to at least assure them even like that. But it's also a difficult situation because not long ago, I think there was a time where the players were talking to the umpire about the score, and all four players on the court said the score was wrong. And the service judge also came over and said the score was wrong. And it turns out afterwards the umpire was right. And so you got 5 people telling you that you're wrong. So you're going to take their opinion, and these things happen. So again, this is where a system maybe like the TV review system would help things like this as well, maybe. But everybody makes mistakes, and these things happen. So it's just trying to reduce them happening.
Has there been an instance where, for example, umpire say called a fault, service judge comes over and said, I don't think that was a fault. Does that decision get reversed? Can the decision be reversed?
Yeah,
I never experienced that.
I think it's because we so as BWF umpires, we have workshops that we discuss these situations, and that has happened. And it showed some really good umpiring in the video where an umpire called a fault because they heard a sound, but obviously then the sound had come from another court or something like this. And the service judge instantly was like, no. And then so the umpire apologized, gave a let, replayed the point, things like that. So when it was obvious and the service judge and there's good communication between the two, it can happen. But obviously when it's a very tight call, if the service judge is not 110% sure and it's not obvious, you're not going to go over to the other side and tell the umpire that it's wrong or something like that. If you're not sure, the umpire's called it, they're in no doubt. It's a tough one.
Okay. Viktor, have you seen some of the I would say, I don't know, controversial is the right word. Have you seen some of the moments that happened at the recent World Championships? So I think one with Ken Yu, with Victor Lai going under the net.
Yeah.
The second one was Shui Qi and Lakshya Sen.
I didn't see the Shui Qi one. I saw the Low and the Viktor Lai one. It's crazy to me there wasn't a mistake there. He's literally laying on Low's side of the court. So I was a bit surprised to see that one. Because of course you're distracted. Like when you're playing like that, no matter if it happens quick or he's only like, the fact that you can see that your opponent is going under the net or something happening, which shouldn't be happening, that will distract you a lot when you're about to hit a shot. Even though it's such a fast, reaction, it still would be a quite big hindrance for yourself. So yeah, I was surprised that wasn't called a fault there, especially at that moment. It was also a pretty crucial moment. But again, mistakes happen, right? And again, you could probably argue, I don't know the rules, down to every single detail, but that for sure in my eyes should be a fault.
David, what's your side of the story? Because surely you must have had the debrief with the whole group, I guess, because surely it must be something that's discussed at the tournament.
Yeah, it was discussed quite a bit afterwards. And so I won't be able to say whether or not I think it's a mistake or not a mistake, because especially in this law, it is an interpretive one. It's not like a fact that has happened, because looks like online when there's been lots of posts about it, it's been misinterpreted as if you go under the net as a fault. But the query with this one is, as Victor was saying, is if you've been distracted, if the opponent is distracted by it. So
and that's the letter of the law. The letter of the law is, so it's not a fault for anyone going under the net, any part of the body going under the net, but it's the distraction. Okay.
That means in theory I can hit a very, very high serve and I can run to the other side of the net.
Technically, without touching the net though.
Without touching the net, but without distracting.
I'm very, very flexible, CK. I can easily get under that net like a cat. But so that would be okay for me to hit a high serve and then just go under the net and then do like this and then run back. That's crazy.
I mean, I think if you're going like this on the other side, that might be a little distracting.
That might be distracting.
But he's literally falling to the other side of the net. That's not distractive? Like, he's literally tumbling on the other side of the net.
But then is that any different to just tumbling if he was just like a couple of feet further into his court? So doing exactly the same actions, but just because it's on
because
the net.
When you are a player, like when you're a singles player, like you sort of have your side of the court and whatever happens on your side of the court. Like obviously if you make a net kill, you're used to having a feet or something, but like literally the entire body of another person being on the other side of the court, that's for sure hindrance. Like that's for sure distraction for yourself. So yeah, in my eyes, I don't see why it cannot be a clear fault. It's a massive hindrance.
I think so. One way as a fan, normally that we tend to quite like very, very clear cut in terms of rules. Like, so because at the moment, David, I think as you said, it's an interpretive set of regulations. So, and everyone can interpret it very differently depending on the situation, depending on the circumstance as well. Like if you're in a chair, 19-0, third set. Wow, World Championships. There's a lot of pressure going on that situation. If the shuttle had landed in from Ken Yu's safe, I don't think we would be having this conversation at all. But because it landed out and then the point was not awarded as a fault to Ken Yu, and I mean personally as a fan, I would love for this to be cleared up. Like tighten up the rules. Okay, no part of the body can go underneath whatever, if at any situation, and then I guess it saves you guys issue and also saves the player stress. And from that side of things.
True. But some of it, I think mainly for it is meant to be like if you're hitting the shot like a lift, like low down, you can go under the net a little bit to help you play the shot, or like your leg when you're lunging can go under the net. So I think that's where the law is meant to be.
The net kill, of course. I get that. That's fine, but then it should be the legs or something. But if your entire torso body, or you're laying on the other side of the net. I don't know. Again, it happens maybe once in every 100,000 match. Like, so of course it's just at the World Championships quarterfinal or whatever it was. It's of course.
Yeah. And then I just want to quickly touch base on the Shriti and Lakshya Sen one. So Victor, if you haven't seen it, it was before the last shot where actually the shuttle landed so fast where it touched the floor first and then Lakshya's racket blocked it back up.
Oh yeah.
And then so I was courtside at the time. I was actually filming a super slow-mo clip for BWF. But I was filming at that point in time. I did not notice it. I did not see it at that point in time as it happened in real life. When the replay was then showed on, obviously I saw it on social media, it was clear as day, but that was with the power of the replay. At that moment in time, I think Shuichi noticed immediately. He's like, "Ooh, it touched the floor." But both umpire and service judge said, "Look, I think we didn't see it," or because they were not 110% sure, they can't make that call. But I was recording courtside. I didn't see it. I did not feel it, did not see it. But on super slow-mo replays, which I have now, it was clear as day that it touched the floor already. And so I think it shows how difficult and how tough it is to make that split-second call. And I think unless you are incredibly clear-cut and you see or hear something, and in some arenas it's so loud, like for example, like Viktor, you must know, like playing Malaysia Open, Indonesia Open, you just can't hear yourself. It's a full wall. So that eye contact, I guess, David, that has to be helpful. Yeah. But okay, yeah, I want to move on to the next important thing here. Viktor, you'll be super interested in this one as well. Time clock. Time clock is coming. It's been approved, and yesterday there was an official message coming out to say the 25-second time clock has been ratified and confirmed for use in terms of BWF World Tour tournaments. They will start trialing it at selected World Tour tournaments on week 47. This will be implemented from week 47 of the World Tour tournament. So actually, in that sense, it will be after the European block in October and November. I believe it's the Saib Modi that will be the first one that is available for selection. Although confirmed or not, we don't know. But I think you'll have the 2 300s and the 2 100s before the World Tour finals. Those tournaments are eligible for the 25-second time clock. And so I'm just going to quickly read through some of the regulations which the principles are based from. Players are allocated 25 seconds between each rally. The clock starts when the umpire updates the score. The server must be ready to serve before the end of the 25 seconds. The receiver must be ready to receive when the server is in position to serve. Umpires have the discretion, using their best judgment, to allow more than 25 seconds between rallies, depending on the circumstance. For example, medical intervention, significant mopping required, etc. And players have the freedom to undertake normal activities between rallies, including toweling off and getting a drink, which is currently requiring the permission of the umpire, and also the freedom to apply cold spray to themselves if they're ready to serve or receive within the 25 seconds. So it sounds like within that 25 seconds, you can do whatever you want. Almost.
Basically, yeah.
And so how did they arrive at the 25 seconds was after hundreds of thousands of matches, the average time in between rallies for rallies that doesn't need intervention, for example, mopping, injuries, broken string, were 22 seconds, and hence they came up with 25 seconds. Viktor, I think I want to get your first reaction here. 25 seconds. Have you tested it? Have you tried it? You think it's enough?
I haven't tested it, but I would say that I'm not one of those players who, necessarily try to spend more time and drag it out. So for me, it's fine. I feel like I have a pretty good flow in my game in that sense. Mm-hmm. I have thought about, doing my training here the last couple of weeks, my intervals, which are usually 30 seconds rest in between. I try to take 25 seconds instead. Mm. Yeah, I'm excited to see how the Umpires are gonna, put it into action. It will probably also take some practicing from their side, I guess. Making sure that if you need the mobbing, you stop it. And how do you probably, if people are getting more and more tired, they will probably ask for mobbing. And then you really have to make a decision if you really need mobbing, because it's important if there is, sweat on the floor and stuff. But I like it. I think it's a good thing for the sport, to be honest. It's good.
Yeah. I mean, David, what about your perspective? Will all the umpires receive extra set of training workshops and something like that before it's implemented?
I guess so, yeah. There has been some discussion already about it. I was involved in some of the data collection for it as well. Mm-hmm. So back at the Thomas Nuber Cup last year, from quarterfinals onwards, the umpires who didn't have duties sat at the back of the courts. And we had to then time every single rally or the time between every single rally, and also record down what was happening. So BWF then were able to get statistics of how long does it take to change a shuttle, how long does it take to change a racket or for mopping and things like this. So this is one of the things which is added to the statistics that they're using for 25 seconds. Yeah, it's going to be interesting how it's implemented. Already immediately there was questions about like, can we pause the clock? Things like this. So whether or not if there is mopping, can we pause the clock as an umpire? When does it initiate? So I think it seems like as soon as we put the score into the score pad, then it will start the timer. But yeah, it'll be interesting. It will definitely need to take time to work on it and see how to enforce it as well.
What do you foresee as a challenge? Yeah.
Yeah, immediately what I see is like if a player is taking too long, how many times can you take too long before you get a yellow card or before it goes to a red card or things like this? So because say in like, I think in tennis, they have their own warning system and they have a number of, I think, warnings before it goes to an actual like default or something like this, I think. So yeah, I don't know whether or not that's been communicated so much yet. But it'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. That I have no idea what happens if you don't
follow the rules.
You know,
yeah.
How many?
I presume it's not a straight yellow card. I presume it's just like a verbal warning. But then,
like maybe
is that going to
times.
be different between umpires? And are they going to give you one chance, or are they going to give you 3 chances? Things like this. So
3 chances, you're just out of the tournament. Good point.
That's quite harsh. Well, 3-time violations and you lose the match straight away.
You will see people serve quick. I tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah, or they might go, okay, if you violate this by how many times, your prize money gets deducted by how many % off.
Yeah, we'll be done with the first round day at 2 p.m. if that's the case.
Yeah, straight away. But then, so whilst the funny one aside, I also foresee, for example, more dives. If this is because obviously mopping will require more time, right? And with the level of matches that we see nowadays, like even, for example, like a standard two-set one-sided scoring with 21 points, you're still seeing maybe 35, 40 minutes. And that's a one-sided scoring. And long, tough games now, long, tough matches have gone to like an hour. Surely players will dive. People do train for dives, right?
Yeah, especially when you get into like the third game. This is where the time between rallies is normally very different. Like even when we were doing the statistics from the beginning of the match, when you're like 1 love, 2 love, 3 love, the time in between those rallies is very different to 19 all in the third game. So this is where hopefully then the average having 25 will allow for that. But potentially that could be pushing it when you're that late in the game. If you're on court for over an hour, end of the third game, you're just going to be diving everywhere, aren't you, to get as much sweat as you can on the court. So it is something that we umpires are aware of.
Sweat angels in the middle of the court.
Yeah,
sweat angels. Well, that's a new term that I didn't think I was ready for on a Thursday morning. Sweat angels.
It's going to be the new thing from week 47 or whatever it was.
Yeah, week 47, end of November.
It is something that umpires are aware of like not diving unnecessarily, and you can tell players off. Obviously, I don't know whether or not, Victor, you've. I can't imagine you've purposely dived when you didn't need to today a match, but
no. I don't dive that much anymore. I only do like,
big
when
lunges.
I go out to the side in the defense, I put my left hand side. If I dive on that court, they will be cleaning. They'll be cleaning that court from morning till evening. That's for sure. I'm so tall. But no, I don't dive that much anymore. I simply don't dare to dive. When I was a junior, I was diving all the time. But no, there are some players who dive unnecessarily. And then there is also players who literally sits down on court after a long rally or whatever.
That's the big one where it really needs to be tightened up and stuff, where when they're just kneeling on the floor and they're kneeling for 5 seconds or something like that, there's no need. Like they've just been playing badminton. They're not. They can get up quickly.
Yeah.
So things like that, which then will need to be kept under control.
It will for sure.
How much input do umpires have before they are put forward to the proper approvals process, right? So I'm assuming umpires and all technical officials are consulted, and then it goes on to, I'm assuming, the technical committee before it then gets ratified and put forward by the council. Once the council approves it, all the members then have to feed back. Members, as in all the countries, have to feed back, which I believe, as we're recording, this is the current survey process at the moment. It has been approved and ratified by the BWF Council end of August, and we're currently in the survey process where all members, all federation members, have the opportunity to actually do their own testing and then provide feedback. And I think that, I'm guessing there might be one more sit down where everyone discusses the whole thing and then it gets ratified, I don't know, like formally, before it is then applied as law within the process. How much say would umpires and technical officials have in this process?
It's something that I'm not fully involved in, but I do know that there is like a working group, as you say, with like umpires involved in there, which gives their feedback. They do that a lot when they're looking at how to word the laws as well. That there's a group of officials that are involved in helping how to do that as well at the same time. But yeah, in terms of, it's something that I'm not fully keyed up on. But I know that they do have a say. And one of the workshops that we did at the World Championships the other week, we're able to give some feedback. And then that would go back to BWF, things like that. So they are taken into account. And obviously BWF themselves are looking at the bigger picture and taking everything else into account as well.
Okay. Viktor, any more questions on the 25 seconds? For me, I just can't wait for it to start. Yes, I think there will be some controversial moments in terms of enforcement and stuff like that, but I guess that's part of the learning process. I'm all for it. I mean, VAR in football took so many years and it's still not even perfect yet at this point in time, right? And we have to start somewhere, and I'm all for the time clock. Viktor, what is your stance?
Yeah, I'm very positive. I'm excited to see how it's gonna be, put into effect and how it's gonna be. I'm looking forward to try it. And then the new scoring system, it also seems like that's going through, right? If I'm not mistaken. So
I think the 3x15 is being trialed at lower level tournaments, selected lower level tournaments, which currently looks like the list is growing quite quickly. It's not applied onto the World Tour yet.
And then we have to vote afterwards, or what?
I think so.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Never mind. Sorry.
Yeah. So yeah.
It'd be interesting with the time clock as well. For me, I think it'll be a good addition. I think it'll be good. It'll be a good introduction. I think also then with the reason of why like there's inconsistencies and stuff is it goes back. You can look at the serving laws. When we introduced the new height, it's created a lot more consistency across the board, and players seem to be happy because they're not complaining about these things. Whereas when there's the delay in a match and each umpire is different, the players are then feeding the inconsistency and stuff. Whereas if there's a clock that they can just see, you can't argue with the clock. Okay, you can argue when it's paused or not, but when there's a number there, you can't argue with it. So I hope from a player's perspective as well that they'll find it beneficial.
And then the time starts when the umpire updates the score. So as soon as the shot touches the floor, you just press the button. We take a breathe, and then take a few seconds, press the button. I want to touch very, very quickly on, for example, umpires are like football referees. Nobody gets told they do a good job. Only when beep happens, right? So you get flack from players, you get flack from fans, you get flack from every single corner on the planet. How do you handle or how do you react to that? I don't think you've been on a couple of memes yet, David. But I'm sure quite a few umpires that you work with have been turned into memes. Yeah. Do you know how they react to it? How would you react to it? And then obviously, Viktor, you can also feed in this process as well because you've got a very, very huge following online. What happens, like David, from your perspective?
It is tough. Luckily, as you say, I haven't been involved in anything majorly controversial, or it hasn't been recorded at least. But these things happen. It's hard to deal with them at the time. Especially then as an umpire at a tournament, when you've gone through something which is controversial or a tough decision. Most of the time, there aren't that many umpires. So in 2 matches time, you've got to go back on court and go and umpire another match. So you've got to...
Let's go back a little bit. How many umpires are there typically in a day's match?
So last week at the World Championships, there were 16 umpires for 4 courts, all the way through the whole week. But then that's effectively 4 umpires for a court. So you're on one match, you're off one match, you're on the next one.
And that's court per day.
That's the whole day. So I think the first 4 days were almost like between 11 to 13-hour days, and there was 4 of them in a row. So they're extremely long days. So this is a thing of when you're making these split second decisions, and you're getting, and you now the matches could be on there for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And then if you're unlucky, the match after you is like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and you've got to go back on and do another hour and a half match. It's going to be draining you. And like, I think everybody was doing about 8 matches in a day. And that for 4 days straight is a really long day. So it's going to affect you, as it's going through. But when there are these tough decisions that you've had to make, you've got to just try and put it out of your mind, move on to the next one, because the next match is now just as important for the players.
It's funny, right? Because it's like well known that, you know, just like your willpower sort of drags out, you know, during the day and in the evening, it has to make the right decision and stuff like that. Like, of course, you're most fresh in the morning, right? When you come in and you're fresh and you just have a sleep and a good coffee, and then slowly by the day you will be more and more tired, right? But usually the evening time are where the most important matches are played.
Yeah.
So like
at the same time.
from Empire, you know, freshness perspective, it's actually not that optimal. So it's a long day for you guys. So, and there's no one who can keep focused for that many hours. Like really, you know, you you can do your best, but it's very, very hard.
Yeah.
It's incredibly difficult. But at the same time, you guys are volunteers. Most of you do not get paid to do this. So hang on. I'm aware that there's some semi-professional umpires. How many are there? Is there 6, 8 of them?
Yeah, I think around about that number.
Okay.
So they're the semi-professional umpires. I know they are trying to introduce. So that is that I think they're required to do 6 or 7 tournaments in a year.
Okay. World Tour tournaments.
The World Tour, the BWF World Tour. But they have to commit 10 weeks each year to the contract, I think. So that also involves anything outside of the tournament. So potentially running workshops, training, and things like this as well.
For free.
They get salaried. No, so they get salaried as a semi-professional.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, the one who commits to 10 weeks gets paid.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then the issue is, and say for me, my normal job, I can't take 10 weeks out of the year. My annual leave is already for tournaments, and I only get about 5 weeks a year. And so I don't get paid. We get an allowance, like a per diem for food, and we get travel expenses. But in terms of a salary, there's nothing else.
Okay.
And then you're committing a whole week of 12-hour days almost, a lot of the time.
Inside an arena. So similarly, like us, you probably see airport, hotel, arena, airport, hotel.
Yep. Most of the time. Yeah, and that's my annual leave from my normal job.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that feeling. So besides the 9 that's paid, 8 or 9 that's paid as a semi-professional, everybody else is a volunteer from that side of the perspective. Okay.
Yeah, so there could be differences in like their home associations, whether or not they do give them anything. But yeah, vast majority are going to be volunteers. And that's it.
And for the love of the game. But then also at the same time, I think, Viktor, I'm not sure if you're aware, how long is the process to be certified at the level at BWF? So can you take us through how many grades there are, and then how long do you need to get them there?
So it depends on the initial stage of what country you're starting from. So your home nation will have its own process of how to get you to the next stage, and assessment and exams. In terms of the continental and the BWF levels, so there's 1 level now with BWF. There used to be 2, but it's now all being amalgamated into 1. And then the Europe or continental stage, there's 2 stages. So say for me from Europe, I've had to go to Badminton Europe accredited, and then that goes up to certificated, and then to BWF. Each time has to be a minimum of 2 years experience before going to the next step. And also then it takes time, obviously, from your home nation, from when you're starting umpiring, you can't go straight to Badminton Europe. So I think the shortest time that you probably could viably do it is about maybe 9-10 years from when you're starting to umpire to go to BWF level. So it takes,
and that's without salary.
And 10 years volunteer salary. Minimum.
Yeah.
Thank you for your service, man. I respect you. Really, I respect that.
And so, I mean, so you might be lucky and go through a bit quicker. I took 12 years when I first started. Obviously, COVID delayed that a little bit as well. But it takes a long time. to get to the top level.
And from what I know, 12 years is actually a fairly fast one. It's a fairly speedy one to get to, because I believe, for example, in terms of like the Badminton Europe levels, there are a certain number of quotas per country because you need to be balanced, right?
Yeah.
And so
exactly.
if someone is still within that position from your country, you need for them to retire before a new one can fill in. Is that correct?
Yeah. Not 100%, but they like to keep a balance. So say if you have suddenly, say, 5 BWF umpires from England, you're gonna be wanting to try and get an umpire from another country first if they haven't got any at all, things like this. So this is something that I think BWF obviously look at, but they need to keep the standard the same as well. So this is why there's such a long assessment process and exams at each stage. That you have to go through an on-court assessments as well. But also it can be down to luck, where BWF and certificated continental levels, they normally only have assessments at specific tournaments, maybe once a year, sometimes twice a year. So if you're unlucky and you miss that tournament, you got to wait another year. And there might be somebody else now in the queue as well to go there. So it's quite competitive at the same time, within your country and within other countries. But it takes a while. It takes a long time to get there. And also at the same time, you've got to battle and get there before the retirement age as well. So for
what is
BWF,
the retirement age? 55,
Yeah,
right?
55.
That's the biggest challenge.
Yeah.
That's a long process.
So like to get there before 55, but then that's when you got to retire. The thing is, BWF won't assess you if you're 54. So it's going to be a few years before that to actually look at assessments. So you probably got to look at getting to BWF level at least before you're 50 or 48, which means if you're starting 12 years earlier or 10 years earlier, then you got to look at it. A lot of the time, people start umpiring after they finish playing and things like that. But then if you do that and wait all that long, it's
too late.
Kind of quite late to get to BWF level if you want to get there.
And similarly for players, I'm assuming the goal is the Olympics, right?
I'd say for me, my goal is the Olympics. So
how many
I got
get
my
selected
fingers
to go
crossed
for the
that.
Olympics?
Ooh. I'm not quite sure on the number, but I know again they have the restrictions for country and continent as well. So
It's tougher to qualify, Victor, as an umpire than as a player.
Just sitting here thinking it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy without pay.
So I think if
you
you're
love
a home
badminton more
nation,
than I
you
love
get-
badminton, that's for sure.
I wouldn't do it otherwise. Probably that's the thing. You know, it's the best seat in the house to do it, and you're closest to the action. But it takes a lot of commitment, which is why we struggle all over the world. We do struggle for officials and umpires.
Of course you struggle, man. If they don't pay for it, of course you struggle. If you just expect people to devote 10 years of your life with no pay, and you have to find the weeks in today's economy, then it's of course you're gonna struggle. Like, you know, you should get paid more. That's what I'm sitting thinking. Like, of course,
Yeah.
if you want quality and you want people to, you know, you should get paid for your work. You devote 10 years of your life just getting getting to the level minimum.
Minimum.
It's absolutely
some people don't even get there. I know
that.
that.
Crazy to me. Really, it's crazy to me that is even allowed. But anyways, I'm not the law.
I'm just seeing here, seeing Victor on the screen, like his head just kind of exploding a little bit, just realizing how much time and effort and training it takes to get there.
Being completely honest, I totally get it that you want to be close to the action and you love the sport and you want to get to the Olympics and get that experience, but it's not easy. 10 years.
Yeah.
Well, 10 years is the starting point, because once you get accredited at BWF level,
it's just to maybe get to the start of it.
To the chance, exactly. Like now so hopefully I have a good chance for the next Olympics, but then it will depend on how I perform over the next few years, the tournaments I do, things like that. So
what are the assessment criteria?
I always wanted to get there, but
so it depends. From the outside, it looks super simple. You just go on Love All Play, and then maybe call for you, like, as a general fan. This is an oversimplification, which is not fair to what you guys do. As a general fan, they were like, well, what are the umpires doing? So tell us
there's a lot.
How
I mean,
assessed.
Obviously there's the application of all the laws. So whether or not you make mistakes, things like this, and it's how you deal with situations. Because we always talk about having a stepwise approach on a lot of things, say with delay. Obviously that might now change with the clock. But there's ways of, if you see an umpire straight away for the first time, Viktor suddenly just delays serving and then he gets called over and given a red card straight away. Things like this. So whether or not those decisions are correct and like that. So that's how we're assessed as well. Also just our manners, teamwork, presentation. There's a lot that goes into it on how you're dealing with the situations. And so that's done primarily by like the referees and other umpire assessors we have at the back of the court watching. And then they'll give feedback on how to improve and things like this, or how to keep consistency throughout tournaments and matches.
Do you have like, do you spout the other umpire for like, bad words from the different languages? So, like, for example, the Danish players, like there's one word we often say where it's like, it's not in English, but this word is not to be said. Okay, great.
Relatively, but there's a difficulty is there's a lot of languages. But yeah, you do pick up the words that you're not meant to say from other
I'll
umpires.
have to make a new vocabulary, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I have to make a new vocabulary.
Do it in Mandarin.
It's also sometimes, it's quite funny where just in how somebody says something, you can often pick up on, they maybe shouldn't be saying that. Yeah. And you can maybe bluff your way and say, Viktor, that. Yeah. I mean, you don't know I don't understand or not, but
the problem is that microphones nowadays, they pick up everything. Like those microphones, they're
pesky,
very good.
Pesky. But we love them.
Really
As fans, we love them. Yeah, as fans, we absolutely love them. Okay, and then I mean, I'm just thinking of the number of times where they've picked up something that's actually funny from these microphones, and then where do you then go from there? Like, for example, the Olympics, right? So Olympics is the goal, and I'm assuming max 16 tops. What is the next step as an umpire? Do you become a referee? So I see a lot of questions online where fans ask, what does a referee do? And I'm assuming all referees were umpires and service judges before they took the test and whatever. What do they actually do?
So it's something that I've only looked a little bit into the referees because it is a completely different side and a different pathway to the umpires. So you don't have to be an umpire to be a referee.
Okay.
I think most of them all have done to a certain level. And I think there might be a requirement for like a basic umpiring level for referees, but it is a completely different pathway.
It takes 30 years instead of 10 to get started.
Probably.
Yeah, exactly. They do. Although they do get 5 years extra for retirement, so that helps a bit.
Great.
Gotta play the game.
I have my retirement plan then.
Yeah. Right. But yeah, it's a different pathway, but they do have their like assessment levels and things like this as well to get there. But their structure is obviously a lot more around the preparation for the tournament. Umpire is on the match, dealing with the match. The referee is everything outside of the match, mainly for the draws. I think if everything goes well, all of their hard work is before the tournament and maybe after. And during the tournament, they should have an easy job if it all goes well.
Okay, because for example, like I know speaking to some of the like events team on different tournaments, like umpires make sure that like the court mats are in the right position, they're in the right quality, the right look for it as well. Like sometimes, like if lines are not clear enough, they then look. You might have to change that or get replaced or something like that. And making sure like all the banners, I'm assuming like all the sponsorship stuff is in the right position, right place as well. I think there's other people for that, but I think that's the referee's position.
Yeah, exactly. They're looking at that, making sure it aligns with the regulations for that in the setup. And also say like lighting, they're always testing the lighting at different parts of the court to make sure that's consistent and at the right levels and stuff. So
shuttle speeds as well, no?
So yeah, they do that every day in the morning.
Okay. Yeah. Are they also volunteers or are they also paid?
So I think because there are a few of them, they do actually get a better expenses per diem amount. And again, they do have the semi-professional referees now as well. I'm not quite sure on their contract and their status. But now hopefully in a few years' time, I think maybe 2027 is the call for to have some fully professional referees and umpires, which would be good to step.
Okay.
But I'm not sure how much, like salary-wise is not the highest, obviously, and things like this. So I don't know how that's going to affect it, because whether or not you can live the whole year just off that, not sure yet.
True.
But we'll wait and see.
Okay. And then Viktor, just moving on from that side, have you ever been picked for a speed test, like a shuttle speed test in the morning before each day starts? Do you then... Do you absolutely send the shuttle if you know it's a slow haul?
No, not really. I basically just test them like I would test them normally back in the day when you were testing them. But that's a long time ago. I tested last time. The shuttle quality nowadays, sometimes at some of the tournaments, is getting increasingly worse. So I hope it will get better.
Okay. And then obviously, I'm assuming the umpires and referees do not have the choice to choose whatever, right? I think it's just they can select the number of speeds depending on the supplier brand, and then from there it is then decided. I mean, I have known instances where, for example, at the start of the week it's the speed, but towards the end of the week, because there's so much more crowd in, or the conditions have changed outside, temperatures have risen like 5-10 degrees, and then they've had to swap speeds during the week.
Even like I even noticed that the World Championships, looking at the bottom of the tubes, there was like 1 or 2 days in the middle of the week where they suddenly changed the speed and then went back to how it started in the finals and stuff like that. It does vary day to day. I don't know, it can be close, but yeah, as you say, depending on the conditions with the crowd, all of it affects it.
Yeah. And here's a question for you, Viktor. Do you actually ever notice that umpires raises right hand or left hand when they're doing something and they mean specific things? Do you know that?
No, I didn't know that. I didn't know.
So what David, tell us.
Right hand mean versus left?
Yeah, it's a simple one to differentiate between if you're calling a referee. So then that would be your right hand. But then if you're doing for the Hawkeye, then you're raising your left hand. That's it. So it's just to stop the referee from coming onto court when you're wanting to do a challenge. That's the difference.
No wonder it takes so many years to get to that level.
How can we decide not to call a referee onto the court?
How crazy would it be that if you get caught raising the wrong hand, it's like, that's a shame, David. You're 5 years back in.
You go back 5 years.
You go back 5 years. Good luck making it before retirement.
It's quite a funny thing when we, as umpires and stuff, we're obviously looking at different things. So when an umpire does a silly thing on court, like doing the wrong announcement and stuff, nobody else in the world knows what's happened or anything has been happening. But then we're all laughing at each other as umpires, saying, "Oh, you did that wrong."
You have like your jokes in between.
Yeah, definitely inside jokes.
I was just saying, imagine the WhatsApp group inside the line judge WhatsApp group. Hang on, but do you guys have a WhatsApp group for each tournament?
Yeah, we do. It's helped a lot with preparations and stuff, but
only for
it was
preparation
crazy
and
before
professional
WhatsApp
stuff
and things like that. Yeah, so
nobody send memes.
No, it is. We would sometimes have 2 chats. We have 2 chats, sometimes for some for official announcements and then others for a little bit more sightseeing when we do get a little bit of time, maybe. But and some jokes. But we do have big WhatsApp groups.
Okay, because I imagine someone slide a meme in there about someone raising the wrong hand. Yeah,
there is. It is one of the things happened actually at the World Championships. I haven't seen it before, but the umpire raised both hands at the same time because there was a challenge, and then also a player was injured, so needed to get the referee on to court. So I think it made for a good photo. But
okay, I did not notice that. Okay,
yeah.
Okay, so we have last 10 minutes here. Tell us about some of the toughest calls that you've had to make, or some of your colleagues have had to make recently. And obviously Viktor can feed in from his perspective as well, because obviously we've now seen more and more like social media. It's much easier to clip footage nowadays, and then we're seeing more and more of these stuff pop up. Tell us about some of the toughest calls that you've had to make.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Because I say when it's something, as I say before, that you've got to move on from. So when it's been a tough call or controversial one that you've got to reset and go back to it. So I think part of that is then you sort of tend to try and keep out of your mind and don't remember them so much. But probably the closest one I say is when I said about earlier, calling the net fault with Anna's and Samir. But yeah, it's really hard to pick out ones which are close. Like that, because essentially so many decisions are so close and so tight to the wire. It is really hard to pick out certain ones. But then that's when it's difficult when it's being recorded and things like this, and you have so many slow-mos and things. It makes it difficult.
Okay. And then Viktor, from your perspective, obviously as players, you guys speak to each other and also like, what happens after a controversial call. Because for example, like not last year, All England, you remember that very well, against Anthony Ginting, that call.
So
initial reactions on court, clearly.
Yeah. You think so?
I mean, that was a controversial call.
Yeah, it was, but nobody's gonna sit here and try to say there was not a fault. Clear picture. I can find pictures of that. That was a fault for sure. But I also get it's hard to see. But that was a clear fault. When you were close to it as a player, you could see it was a fault. But I get it. It's hard to call. So, anyways, I'm okay now. But yeah, I think that's the biggest one. I had one many years ago where I played in Bulgaria when I was just. I had this clause in my contract back then with Head that if I get into top 40, I think we talked about it before, that I could get out of the contract and then get my Ionis contract, which was waiting. And I played against Kęstutis actually in the semifinal. Yeah, in the semifinal. And I was at like the net. I played to the net, and then he wanted to play net shot. Then he changed his mind, so he made like a guided shot, like a clear fault. And instead of just killing it, I just took it down because I was like, the umpire, of course, saw the call. But no, he didn't see it. So, and it was like very close in the third game. And yeah, that for some reason I remember very clearly. But the Anthony Ginting at the All England, that was the worst one so far, where I could really have used the VAR. Yeah.
But then now that like 99.9% of umpires and technical officials are volunteers, are you going to cut them a little bit more slack?
Yes. I know how many years they sacrificed. I'm going to be like, just you can do whatever you want.
Guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
because
but I have all jokes aside, I have big respect that you want to to be there and devote so much life. I still think that you should seriously get paid at least some. Really. You're probably staying also very close to each other, and it's really for the love of the game. So I have big respect for that.
Yeah. Also, when these situations come about, obviously the umpire doesn't want to make a mistake or give to the wrong side as well. But you just got to call what you see at the time or what you think is right, and if you're confident enough, stick with it. Things like this, but yeah, it is always going to be difficult.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
It'd be interesting actually when you to go back to the way at the beginning when you're saying about the Xiuqi and Sen moment in the slow mo. Can you like get just as a numbers point of view to see the time between those two things, to see how small a margin would you have to call if you were to see that and call it?
Yeah, well,
good to see.
I shot that in 240 frames a second, so I can actually happily count those milliseconds. Yeah. But yeah, at that point in time, like where I had a camera, I was looking through, I did not notice it, and then I was wondering why was Suichi standing in front of the net and going to the umpire and then to the service judge to say, did you see that? I didn't really understood what happened at that point in time. But then upon reviewing the footage, I go, okay, I can see why. But then on the slow-mos that we see on social media and on websites, they make it clear as day that it was a fault. But in that heat of the moment, the pace where the shoulders are going, like, I mean, exactly, Victor, you guys hit it so fast. I missed it. I did not see that. I did not see that.
It just shows that such small margins. Yeah.
I mean, personally, for me, I would love to have the VAR system because it makes the umpire's job and the technical official's job really clear cut. As in, okay, it then it's not up to interpretation. Like you said, the clock is there. It shows you 25 seconds is 25 seconds, and then it also puts players' minds at ease as well. Like that it's going to be enforced 25 seconds to 25 seconds. It's not going to be anywhere X or Y, right? I would love to have the VAR process, and then also. Currently, it sounds like the regulation also puts you guys, technical officials, in a position where there's no choice for you guys to, in some way, overturn or at least say, okay, I made the wrong call at that point in time. With VAR, this is the right call. It's for the better of the game. I think it's mainly in the investment side of the process, really, because I'm assuming you guys would want VAR, players would want VAR. Yeah. It's just someone can find some way to get the investment in. To make that happen. I mean, Victor, you'd be happy with VAR.
Yeah, sure.
2 challenges, I guess, per side.
Yeah.
Is that the way that you'd want it to be implemented, like in a challenge-based system?
Yeah, I would say that. That would be especially on the net kills. I think that's the big one right now. To be honest, if we start with just a very good camera at the net, we already have good cameras. I don't see why it would be an issue. Really?
The current ones are good enough, actually, to be honest.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting because there's like ones like we always compare before when football was introduced in VAR is compared to rugby and their review system. And like theirs is, I think, is 100% perfect. It's a perfect implementation, and that's more of a direct communication between the referee and like the fourth official. Whereas it doesn't need a challenge maybe. And if a mistake has been seen just on TV, a message can be brought down because the players may not even realize it. Say again with the scoring issues and stuff, if there's a mistake with the scoring, that a message can be directed to the umpire to say that this happened and things like this. So I don't know which one would be better in terms of a challenge system or just having a fourth official or a third official
Full replay
always
system.
watching over the game, maybe.
Yeah.
Not sure.
I think it's a good option.
Another way of looking into it.
1 second. What is the actual rule for a net kill? So assuming there's a net here, for everyone watching, shuttle's coming across, someone killing on this side, shuttle has crossed the net. The racket can cross the net without touching.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah. So you can follow through. So after you've hit the shuttle. So
the follow through can be after the shuttle has crossed the net or before the shuttle has touched the floor.
It can be straight out. So as soon as the first thing is you got to hit the shuttle on your side of the net. That's 100%. You have to do that. As soon as you've hit the shuttle, you can go over the net in your stroke, and that's absolutely fine.
Without being distracting.
Without hindering your opponent. Yeah.
Okay, hindering. Like okay.
Yeah, or distracting. Yeah, but I would say with the distracting, it's still your shot that you're able to play. Which is when it's quite a funny scenario is when it's been called a lot more now, when you have then the other opponent with your racket up blocking. Now that's a bit of discussion whether or not how close do you have to be able to prevent your opponent from playing a shot, things like this. But say during that follow through and you clip the other player's racket, it's your point because they have hindered you making your shot because you're allowed to follow through. That's quite an interesting rule, which I'm not sure a lot of players actually know about.
I mean, Viktor has won a lot of legendary points being at the front of the net and actually picking those net kills up, no?
But I would say if you're following through, aim for the other person's racket.
Yeah, exactly.
There we go. now you know.
What I always do.
Yeah. Now you know. Okay. And then, I mean, just as the last one, Viktor, do you have any questions in terms of rule clarification? Now that we have David actually said here. Oh, I have one more. So on a swing, if a shuttle for some reason touches your racket twice, or you can hear your racket twice, but it's still one stroke, fault or no fault?
So if it's one stroke, it can hit the racket multiple times as long as it's in one stroke. But then obviously it can't be slung. So the shuttle can't have constant contact with it.
And you can't sit on
slung. It. But it can like be repeatedly hit as long as it's in one stroke. Yep.
Okay. We will
Which
have
is a bit, I think quite a lot of people, like say at club level, ballers, they just don't know and they call that as a fault. But sometimes it is very off. It's so hard to be able to tell the difference. It's more about the feel of it and that you'd feel that more. So.
Okay. Viktor, any last questions? I think we're actually good for an hour, no?
No, I think we're good. Now that I know that all umpires and referees, they love me, then it's fine.
I'm surprised you didn't know that before.
No. Yeah, it was a pleasure talking to you. And once
Likewise.
again,
thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on, and I'll see you around the tour. I hope you make it to the Olympics.
Thank you.
We should have a wild card for the podcast, CK.
Yeah, I think so too. Because when's your next tournament, David?
So a couple of weeks' time, I'll be going to the Japan Para Badminton International. So not
Para.
Para Badminton. That's my next one. So that's also one of the involvements now that is up and coming. The BWF Umpires needing to do those tournaments as well.
Because regulations are also different to them as well.
Yeah.
Court sizes are different, the lines are different, and then how the rallies are being played are different as well. So so I think that's actually really good cross training to do definitely. That. Yeah. And also for anyone who's actually wondering how come I'm wearing a VA shirt, obviously we spoke about it before the start of the recording. I think this episode will come out after the full VA collection is launched globally. I believe it's launching 26th of September. Yeah. So I thought repping the brand a little bit today. Why not? This is actually the only shirt that I actually have from this is actually the only shirt I have. I think I was sent
to hook you up with some more. That's for sure.
Yeah, I got some more like jumpers and jackets, but then in terms of shirts, this is the only one that I have. So this is it. Yeah. So no, thank you so much, David. I really appreciate it. Actually, what's your full-time job actually? We call you Dr. David Evans, but I don't remember what your full-time job is.
So I'm a chemical scientist. So I work in genetics for the health service in the UK.
Okay. And you're also a World Tour, the youngest BWF certified World Tour umpire that has done all of it.
Got to be honest now, I'm actually not the youngest. This year is only just recent, just by 1 year. I'm not the youngest.
We got to take him out. We got to take him out.
No, you can't take me now. I'm too old.
Okay. But
now we can't take the clickbait. The youngest certified BWF umpire, because there's one
ex-youngest.
Ex-youngest.
Yeah.
It's also
Ex-youngest. Well, we're going to have clips and memes of these right now. But no, thank you so much for making time. I think it's really crucial, because I think umpires do not get a good reputation because fans only pick up the mistakes you guys make. But then over the thousands and thousands of matches that you guys do, you might have like one. But we're all human, and then it's also important for the fans to understand the amount of training and sacrifice required, 10 years minimum, to actually get to where you need to go. So everyone you see on TV has done their 10, 15 years, so minimum. Yeah, and there's a few characters on court for the umpires, and we love them. We're like, it's part of the game. Yep. Thank you so much.
So no, I can show you maybe a funny photo that you might appreciate, Viktor. I don't know if I can share it.
We might have to do it via the WhatsApp group or something.
Will it make me look? Will it make me look good or bad? Otherwise, we'll finish this podcast early.
Well, I don't know. I can maybe. I don't know whether or not this would work. Can you see that?
Oh wow! Oh,
so that is literally when I started umpiring. So it's quite a few years ago.
Ooh,
how long was this?
Time ago. Shit, I'm thin.
I think that's like 2010 or 2011.
It's the Danish Open in 2011.
Yeah. So that just shows how long it takes to get to BWF level, basically.
And you, well, I think it's a full circle, really. Maybe we need that photo as a thumbnail. We put arrows on or something.
When you finally have made it, I will be like, crushed over, like just humbled.
At the Olympics. Yeah. Well, we can go how it started, how it is now.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing. Thank you so much.
You too.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Thank you for having me.
Right. I will end the recording now. Do you actually ever notice that umpires raise his right hand or left hand when they're doing something and they mean specific things?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a simple one to differentiate between if you're calling a referee, so then that would be your right hand. Then if you're doing for the Hawkeye, then you're raising your left hand.